Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the City Talk podcast, Common Sense Politics with eyes on Orlando. But today, our eyes is on Austria because we have a special guest today, Elisabeth Sabaditsch-Wolff, who is an Austrian woman who has been persecuted for speaking the truth. Now, we're going to read a little bit about her. And so you can get to know a little bit about who this woman is and what a great pleasure it is to have her on the program today. So Elisabeth Sabaditsch-Wolff is a woman caught up in an extraordinary times. She has been hectored, vilified, persecuted, and prosecuted for the grave offense of telling the truth about the Muslim prophet Mohammed and his marriage to a very young girl, a 6-year-old child. And I will add this into it because I know this part. A very young girl who was 6 years old that Mohammed the prophet married, the Muslim. He married a 6-year-old girl, and at 9 years old, she had to perform wifely duties to the 53-year-old Mohammed. And so Elisabeth spoke that truth as related in Islamic sacred literature. That's where it comes from. It's in their holy book. She fought bravely in the legal arena through the Austrian courts and eventually the European Court of Human Rights to defend her freedom and by extension the rights of all Europeans, and as we're finding out, the rights of the rest of the world to voice her opinions. She lost, and her case has exposed the grave dangers of freedom of speech and thus freedom of thought itself. In Europe and ultimately the rest of the free world, truth was my crime, an updated and revised version of her book from 2019 titled The Truth is No Defense recounts of her life's odyssey beginning when she was a young child living in a number of Muslim countries. No stranger to the custom, traditions, and doctrines of Islam, Sabaditsch-Wolff is only too aware of its harsh prejudices. Her book serves as a warning call for America and countries whose cherished freedoms are under attack. As you know, we are under attack here in America. Despite the looming dangers and her ordeal in the Austrian courts, she is optimistic that truth and freedom can prevail over intolerance and injustice. In America, she sees hope because in America, freedom still rings among the millions who understand the threat to their God-given rights of free speech. Yes, we are aware, and every day we fight to help people understand that if you don't fight for your freedom of speech, it can be taken away the way Elisabeth was taken away in Austria. Her book is a wake-up call for all those who cherish the U.S. Constitution and the freedoms it guarantees. It is also a warning to those who don't understand what's going on. Speak now, refuse to be muzzled, resist while you can, or surrender. Freedom of expression is the basis for all freedom. And so that is from her book, and I am excited to have her on the program. We're going to learn a lot today, and I welcome her. So before we bring Miss Sabaditsch-Wolff on, we're going to take a brief break and have a word from the sponsor of our program. And so we look forward to having this conversation with Miss Elisabeth on the other side of the program, on the other side of this I thank you again. City Talk Podcast, Amanya Salas, here with you once again for another thrilling, exciting interview. City Talk Podcast, Common Sense Politics, Eyes on Orlando. We are so proud to partner with the Orlando Patriot. Orlando Patriot is an online store, patriotic merchandise, everything you need, flags, t-shirts, hats, magnets, and more. They have wonderful patriotic merchandise to support all of your causes where you can show off your patriotic spirit. So Orlando Patriot, they are currently offering 30% off on all merchandise. And the coupon code is City Talk. We are so proud to partner with businesses in the community, such as the Orlando Patriot. If you want to amplify your business voice on our program, please email us at citytalkpolitics@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And for the Orlando Patriot, you can find them at orlandopatriot.com and get yourself 30% off on your purchase. And here we go. Thank you, Elisabeth, for coming on the program. I really appreciate it. I mean, you're a gem, and I'm just so grateful that I have this opportunity to just sit and chat and have a conversation with you about everything that you've done. You're like the superhero woman. You've lived all over the Middle East. You've done so much, but your truest fight is this freedom of speech, the things that you've gone through with this. You've been battling this for like over 10 years. And I'm just like, wow. Over 10 years ago, this you were dealing with what we're dealing with now. So again, thank you for coming, and I'll let you jump right in.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's always lovely to have a conversation with like-minded people. Although we actually should be engaging with people who are not, who don't agree with us. But maybe we can convince a few people on your program to listen to what we have to say, just as we need to listen to them, because that's what free speech is about. We have to have a discussion. We're not in the business of, at least I'm not in the business of silencing people. I would like to listen to people. So kudos to you for doing that. And thank you again for having me. I mean, I would like to sit with you in person, but maybe we can do that next time I'm in the US. So you wanted me to talk about my fight for free speech, I suppose.
Yes, yes, I do.
How I got into this quote unquote business. And well, I think I need to educate your viewers first who I am and why my English is understandable and the way it is, because you probably don't expect an Austrian to speak like I do. So
Yes.
let me just quickly tell you that I was born in Geneva, Switzerland. My dad is a retired diplomat, and I grew up in New York. I went to kindergarten in New York, and I grew up in Iran during the Islamic Revolution and experienced firsthand what it was like, to live in a time where freedom was actually taken away very quickly from these people. I also spent time in Baghdad in 1982 and I got to see the other side of the Islamic Revolution, basically the war, because there was a war between Iran and Iraq at the time. And then my father was transferred to Chicago, and I attended school in Chicago from 1983 to 1987. And the reason I mention this is because in 8th grade, I had a wonderful social studies teacher, Mrs. Felix, who taught me not only American history, but also, where do I have it? Let me see. This.
Ah, the Constitution.
The Constitution. And she did such a great job that to this day, this is what guides me, actually. It is, a small booklet, tiny,
Mm-hmm.
tiny, tiny, small. Look at
Mm-hmm.
that. We all know
Mm-hmm.
that. But it includes probably the most beautiful words, political words ever written. And it grants freedom to millions and millions and millions of people. And there are millions and millions of people out around the globe who want to live according to the Constitution of the United States and
Yes.
would want to do nothing more than to come to the United States.
Yes.
Now, I'd have to take a test on the Constitution, and as a result, I understand what it means to be an American without actually being one. Okay, I know that sounds a little contradictory, but it instilled in me, I don't have it in my DNA, obviously, but it's probably as close as possible in my DNA, the quest for freedom and the need for freedom of speech, because that is the basis for everything else. You can't
Yes.
have freedom of speech. And of course, you can't have it and pretend that you're free. It just doesn't work. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, that goes against everything that Europeans believe in. But again, I'm a traveler between the two worlds. You can't
Yes.
have a First Amendment without the Second Amendment.
Yes.
That goes without saying. It's
Yes.
not a popular thought here in Europe, but I do believe in the importance of a Second Amendment. So anyway, that's what I learned in Chicago, and that is what has guided me ever since. I graduated high school in Austria. I then went on to become a ski instructor, and then
ski
returned
instructor?
as a ski instructor. Yes, of course.
Oh.
I
Oh.
didn't do what my parents wanted me to do, basically to go to university and be a good student.
Of course.
No, I became a ski instructor, which was a hard lesson for a diplomat's brat, basically, because you're really yeah, it's a humbling experience.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very humbling. You think skiing is associated with sun and blue skies and great weather and no.
Mm.
Being a ski instructor means when it's 10 or 15 below and there's a wind blowing outside, like a hurricane gale force wind blowing, and you still have to teach those people who are actually paying a lot of money to be taught,
Right. Wow.
to be outside with you, and that's not easy. It's it takes a lot of self-discipline to go out there when you know it's freezing, when you know that it's horrible weather. I actually taught kids and it was pouring rain. Okay,
And they showed up?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Kids are great in that. Well, I didn't appreciate the I actually thought parents would say, no, we're not going to have kids ski in the pouring rain. Nope. They showed up and so did I. And that's what I mean. A lot of self-discipline. That's what you need, because when the going gets tough, that's exactly when you show that kind of self-discipline. And that's what also has guided me my entire life. I don't shy away from challenging times, so yeah, I guess that's how to phrase it. So anyway, ski instructor. And of course you can't teach skiing in the summer. So in 1990, my dad said, "You want to go to Kuwait and stamp some visas at the Austrian embassy?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. It's really fun." And so I went there in 1990, and on August 2nd, 1990, I woke up and Saddam Hussein had invaded Kuwait, and I found myself in the midst of a war.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
You were there during the war.
Well, I was there during the invasion.
Yes.
And I wasn't there during the ground offensive, of course, but during the invasion, when, of course, things were a lot more difficult because you didn't know what was going on.
Right. Yeah.
And, I wasn't allowed to leave the embassy premises. I was 19 years old. My parents didn't know where I was and if I was okay. And as such, of course, if you're not allowed to leave the country or the premises, of course, you're a hostage.
Yes,
And
of course.
I won't go into the details of how I got out, because people should actually read the book, because there's a whole chapter on yeah, what happened to me in Kuwait and how I got out. It wasn't fun, let me tell you that. I might be smiling now, but it wasn't fun at the time.
Right. No.
And it left me with PTSD, which was never treated. And I somehow got over it. I mean, it was really never treated. I mean, the way I'm sitting
Wow.
right now is the raw Elisabeth that never saw a doctor because of, PTSD. But
Hmm.
somehow you get over it, you move on, you continue your life. And that's what I
Yes.
did. Yeah. And in 1997, I returned to Kuwait and again worked at the Austrian embassy. I was 25 years old
Hmm.
and experienced Islam firsthand. Of course, I experienced Islam back in Iran in 1979, but of course, I was 7 years old.
Right.
I experienced Islam in Iraq, but I was 11 years old. Experienced Islam in 1990, but I was 19 years old. But when you're 25, you have some sort of a semblance of adulthood.
Yes.
And yeah, and that's what I did. At first, it's very exotic Islam.
Hmm.
Uh, that was the first year. But then the second and third year, it starts to really annoy you when you have, Ramadan and you're not allowed to eat or drink outside the embassy premises, even though you're not a Muslim.
Hmm.
And it just gets you really, really annoyed. And what changed my life was part of my job at the embassy was to read the English language newspapers. And one day I read about the Islamic prophet Mohammed marrying a 6-year-old and consummating the marriage when she was 9. And I was deeply shocked. And I went to my friend who was also interpreter, a
Hmm.
Jordanian,
Okay.
and I asked him, Hussein, is that true what I just read? And he basically told me to shut up and not ask questions and said religion is good, people are bad, and just shut the discussion, the conversation, shut it down. And there must have been a God watching over me, because I really did not question it, because and
Hmm.
if I had, I might have been deported, because at the time I didn't know how contentious this entire topic was.
Was.
And yeah, so in Kuwait, I met my husband, an
Hmm.
Austrian who served the UN peacekeeping force. And after Kuwait, I added a year in Libya, which was probably
Libya
not
too.
Libya too. I was in Libya on 9/11. And then I returned in 2000, late 2001, I returned to Austria, got my degree, had my daughter. And in 2007, I got involved I started learning everything about Islam, and my eyes were opened, and all of a sudden I understood what I experienced,
Those years.
those years leading up
Hmm.
to 2006
Hmm.
actually had its you can trace the roots in Islamic theology, Islamic law, Islamic history, and the Quran itself. And it frightened me, especially because I had seen what the influx of Muslim immigrants into Austria and Europe had done to society. It changed it dramatically. And knowledge, of course, is power, and that's what happened. And a political party got in touch with me, the Austrian Freedom Party, and commissioned lectures on Islam for people who were interested in what was actually going on with Islam, because at the time there was very little knowledge in the public sphere.
Hmm.
And that's what I did. And those lectures became very, you know, people were interested. Lots of
Yeah,
people
of
listened.
course. Hmm.
And In 2009, a young journalist infiltrated the seminars surreptitiously and recorded them. And a transcript was then presented to the public prosecutor, who then immediately pressed charges for hate speech against me. I immediately got a lawyer, and in 2010, I stood trial for hate speech, and I was grilled by the judge. I never had the feeling that I had a chance to defend myself. It was always, I had to prove my innocence, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And it became clear immediately that there was no hate speech, especially when the tapes were played. But the judge added another charge at her own discretion, which was denigration of religious teachings of a legally recognized religion in Austria, which is Austria is the only country to actually have this relationship between religious communities. It has those with Christianity, with Judaism, with Hinduism, with Islam, with other major religions. For those who are interested in the historical background to this acceptance of religions, there's a whole chapter devoted to that in my book. So anyway, denigration of religious teachings. I knew that I was going to be found guilty. I never had a chance, and so it came.
Right.
The judge found me guilty on denigration of religious teachings for saying the following, actually asking the following rhetorical question. I said, since we're not allowed to call Mohammed a pedophile, which I knew under Austrian law, case law, you're not allowed, what do we actually call this behavior that Mohammed engaged in if we can't call it pedophilia?
Pedophilia.
Actually, I said and that was probably my mistake, because the judge, on purpose, she chose to misunderstand me. What I said verbatim was, what do we call it if not pedophilia? What I should have said is, what do we call it if we can't call it? If we're not permitted by law to call it
pedophilia, then what is it? What do you
So
call it? How do we do that?
Exactly. I mean, you have to call a spade, right? I mean,
Right.
yeah.
You've got to give it some kind of name. So what is it? What do we call it?
Okay,
Yeah.
exactly. So I said, okay, we can't call it pedophilia. Granted, I disagree with it, but let's argue for the sake of argument. We can't call it pedophilia, but what do we call it?
Yeah.
And that's where she chose to misunderstand me, and found me guilty, and I received a fine, and I immediately appealed the verdict. I'm sorry. With the appeals judge, a year later, arguing that while it's historically true that Mohammed married a 6-year-old and consummated the marriage when she was 9, calling it pedophilia is an excess of opinion.
It's
You
an
must be
excess of
rolling. You
opinion.
must be thinking, my God, these Europeans are really weird.
Yes, but yes.
Yes, I mean, excess of opinion. Hello, First Amendment. How does that square? I mean, either you have freedom of speech or you don't.
Or you
can't
don't.
have freedom of speech, and let's go back to the 1980s when I studied the Constitution. I was naive enough to think that I would be able to say what I wanted to say because I had freedom of speech, but I don't.
But you don't.
In European law, you have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom after speech. And
what does that mean? Freedom after speech. What do you mean by that?
You speak, and then you have the law, the wrath of law coming down on you. There is no freedom after speech because you actually can't say what you want to say. It's a fair weather freedom of speech. And if let's fast forward to October 2023. You see how many people are, even on the political right, are calling for the banning of pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian demonstrations. I
Yes.
disagree strongly. You must have the freedom if you believe in what Hamas and in the Palestinian cause. You must be, it's despicable to us.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrific, calling chanting Jews to the gas and
Yes.
from the river to the sea, etc., etc. But you
Yes.
must, according to freedom of speech and according to the First Amendment and the Supreme Court, which actually has a very narrow court of what is not permissible under the First Amendment, you must be able to say that.
Mm-hmm.
And its freedom of speech is precisely when it's speech that you dislike, that you abhor, that's precisely when there needs to be freedom of speech. As my
Yes.
lawyer argued in court, we don't need freedom of speech for the Sunday Sunday lovey-dovey talk of the Austrian
Mm-hmm.
president.
Mm-hmm.
We need it precisely when you hear something that you don't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we need it. And that's exactly what's happening right now.
I'm glad you brought that up. Rashida Tlaib, she led the
Yes.
protest at the Capitol a few weeks back when all of this came about. I mean, and
Yes.
she called out Joe Biden and she,
Yes.
pretty much roasted him for not standing with uh, the Palestine people, but standing with Israel. At least it appears this way right now. I'm just saying.
Mhm.
But, I find it interesting that we have this woman in our Congress who, you know, she's expressing her freedom of speech. I get that, in America we can do that, but it's still, some way appalling to see how all of this is being displayed. It,
Yes,
it was an
absolutely.
insurrection in our capital. This is
Yes.
how they called it, an insurrection on the other side. But when they walk into the Capitol and do these things, it's just freedom of speech. So it's
But
a.
it is, at the end of the day, it's still a litmus test
Mhm.
for your true commitment to free speech. We have to listen to Rashida Tlaib, even if we don't
Yes.
like it.
Mhm.
That's I will not move 1 inch away from this firm belief in freedom of speech, because you also, people have to understand that um, speech restrictions, no matter where they come from the left or from the right,
Mhm.
they are like poison gas. They seem like a really good idea when you've got the gas and a really good deserving target in sight. But when the wind shifts, the gas is blown on you. So,
Yes.
for people on the right to call for, we've actually heard calls to blacklist students for their abhorrent views. Do you remember hearing that?
I've heard it.
Um,
Yes.
Careful. This sets a precedent, because the wind will shift, and then it's going to be a list of conservatives who have certain views, and they should then also be banned and blacklisted from getting jobs. It's our time to stand up. We should be the ones fighting for someone's right to abhorrent speech.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
this is hard. I don't I mean, very few people I disagree more than with people like Rashida Tlaib,
Mhm.
but she has a right to say it.
She
And
does.
you
She
see,
has a right to say it. She has a right to assemble. Yes, and we all do. And that is the point, is that
see,
on the right, when you're doing certain things for your rights and your assembly, then the left, they will criticize, they will condemn you, and they
yes,
will cancel you because of these things. But when you look at it on the other side, what happened in Washington D.C., it's it's a free pass because this is who they are, and it's just a hypocritical setup for me.
absolutely. I'm
you
with you,
know
but we should not stoop low. Let's not compare ourselves to these people. Uh, we have we have the moral high ground here.
Yes.
Okay. And we
Hmm.
really need to, again, it's painful, it's difficult, but again, it's a litmus test. Do we believe in free speech? And again,
Yes.
that includes speech that we dislike, that we abhor. And yes, there's a slippery slope and a slant. It's yes, there is a problem, but it's up to us on the political right to fix it. Tomorrow is Tuesday, and it's election day in the United States,
Yes,
and that's
ma'am, it
where
is.
people have the chance to vote in. It doesn't. We don't have we, I don't get to vote, but Americans do not have to wait every 4 years to vote for, to cast their vote for a president. It
Hmm.
actually starts tomorrow. It starts on a Tuesday in November when you vote for those people on the school boards. You need to vote conservative on the school boards because that's where, education. It's
Hmm.
the kids that need to be educated. It's all very very good in 1 year from today, the presidential elections, but again, it starts at the very bottom. It
Yes.
starts with the school board, and it starts with
Hmm.
parents demanding the education of their children be not woke, not DEI, not all that, what is it called,
ESG2.
yeah, well, all the woke
All of
crap.
it. All of
Okay.
it. Yeah.
It needs to go, but that's where parents need to demand a change, and that's where it starts. You need to support the right candidates for school board. So that's what I'm calling for people. You need to go vote. It's still your
Yes.
right. Don't let anyone take it away from you. I know that it's a problem in the United States. We in Europe don't understand how it is possible for an election to be contested. We don't have that in Europe. Elections are, for the most part, sound, absolutely sound. Okay. I have never questioned an election in Europe. And for that to happen in America, to question an election, that is a
Several
very,
of them.
exactly. I mean, generally, I mean, elections have always been a problem in the
Hmm.
US.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
that needs to be fixed. But if I may return to the case that it didn't end with the appeals, by the way. So I
Hmm.
really, if I may just, I don't know how much time we still have, but
We
at
have as
least,
much time as you're willing to give.
okay. So let me, if I may, just finish, up to
Yes.
2018, because otherwise people are left with, well, what happened with her?
Okay.
So again, I appealed, and I told you that the appeals judge said it's an excess of opinion. That's how we didn't really get off track, but.
Hmm.
So anyway, that was 2012. I appealed again, all the way to the Austrian Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, nope, the lower courts did a good job, but we would like the European Court of Human Rights, which is a supranational court, to weigh in on Articles 9 and 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which is a sort of Bill of Rights, but of course granted by the government and therefore can be taken away. It's
By
not
the
like
government.
in the United States where it's by the creator.
Mm.
Um, so the European Court of Human Rights accepted my case and deliberated it for 6 years. And in exactly 5 years ago, in late October 2018, the court, and let me give you the exact judgment
Okay.
because it's so incredible. The court found that my right to free speech weighs less than a Muslim's right not to be offended. I'll repeat that in the court's words. The court found that the domestic courts carefully balance the right to freedom of expression with the rights of others to have their feelings protected and to have religious peace preserved in Austrian society. They also found that freedom of expression is not absolute, but should be balanced against the right of others to have their religious feelings protected and to have religious peace preserved in Austria. Now, this might be kind of mind-boggling now, okay?
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
right to freedom of speech weighs less than a Muslim's right not to be offended. Now, the words not to be offended are important here, because
Mhm.
this is what we're seeing now. This is playing out in the past 5 years, has been playing out
Yes.
lately, both in the United States and in Europe. For instance, the trial of the century that no one knows about. And let me give you the trial of the century so you understand why I'm actually talking to you about feelings. Do you know
Mhm.
how everything is now based on feelings?
Everything is on feelings. It's true.
All about you can't, feelings.
It's
It just
feeling.
reminds me of Candace Owens, who recently said, life is tough, man, get a helmet.
Yeah. I saw that. I
I
did see
love it.
that.
I love Candace for
She
saying
said,
that.
I
It's
couldn't
just
believe it.
no, but it's 100% correct. Let's
Uh-huh.
stop talking about feelings. But trial of the century. It took place in late August in a courtroom in Helsinki. A Finnish member of parliament and physician named Päivi Räisänen stood trial for a hate crime for having quoted the Bible in defense of scripture's teachings on homosexuality. The point here is that the prosecutor said the following. The point is, and I'm quoting, the
Mhm.
point is not whether these words are true, but that someone's feelings were hurt by them.
What
Sound
about,
familiar to my judgment?
yes. So what about the Christian and their feelings? Does that not, or
Nope.
their religion, what
Nope.
their beliefs are?
Nope. That's exactly the point. That is
Of
exactly the
course.
point. And this is why my case was, in a negative sense, so important. It is heartbreaking that I couldn't win this case. I tried everything to the very end, but I couldn't win it. And what we're
Mhm.
seeing play out now is exactly what I was found guilty for.
Yeah.
It's hurting someone's feelings. I actually had a judge telling me it was my intention to disparage the Prophet Muhammad.
So,
How does he know what my intention was? You see, it's
mhm.
already the thought crimes. This was the paving of thought crimes that we're actually seeing right now.
We're seeing it. It's being played out everywhere you go. These people have, I don't know if it's an entitlement situation where, you can't call a spade a spade. You've got to call it whatever this person thinks it is.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I don't understand that.
Yes, and yeah, I've been in this exact situation since what was it, 2009, when
Yeah.
my lawyer actually told me you're being accused of hating someone or something. But and this has, been exacerbated in the past, what, 12, 13 years. It's all
Hmm.
about feelings and hatred, but hatred is a feeling. And how dare we be deprived of a feeling? Of course
Hmm.
I'm allowed to hate, just as I should be allowed to love.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that's where the world has really gone upside down, topsy-turvy. It's 2 plus 2 does not equal 4 anymore, because
No.
someone's
It,
feeling
it
can be hurt.
nobody knows what it equals to because it's all in somebody's mind, whatever it is that they think it is. And if
Correct.
you don't accept that, then you're a bigot, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're a
Yes.
xenophobe, and the whole slew of it.
See, but that's where you need to stop. That's where people like you and me need to draw the line. You can call me whatever you want. I don't care. As long as people care, that's how long it's still going to happen.
Hmm.
If people are depressed and sad and scared and whatever for being called a homophobe, a Nazi, a right-wing extremist, whatever, then they're not the enemy of freedom. They're not going to stop.
Right.
You see, it doesn't. I don't care. And
Yep.
you shouldn't care either. And in this
Mm-hmm.
case, you is actually plural, you and your viewers. You
Yeah.
should stop caring about what people might think. Okay? It's just someone else thinking that. Who cares? What's important is that you have a relationship with your God. You have a relationship with your family, your close friends, but the rest, I don't care. Call me whatever you want. I know who I am. My family knows who I am. And at the end of the day, that's all that counts. We need to really grow a spine. And if we
Mm.
don't, let's get a helmet as
Yes.
candidates.
I love it. I love gumption. People,
Yep.
we need to have gumption in this country. We need to be able to stand up
Mhm.
and speak truth and
Yes.
right. I mean, if we don't, we're going to lose everything.
People have to
We've
be
got to get,
scared.
yeah.
People
Hmm.
are now scared into speaking the truth. And that's what I'm really asking for people to be more brave, because you know we're told in scripture, Jesus Christ is the way and the truth,
Yes.
and that should really give us a lot of comfort, as it did to me. And also, remember, and just before Tucker Carlson was fired, he said that it's really, really liberating to speak the truth.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what it is. I have been liberated by speaking the truth, because you know what? It's so much easier. Your life is so much easier speaking the truth, because you never have to think about, what did I say yesterday to
Right.
this person?
Hmm.
I never get off
Yeah.
track. You will never find an interview with anyone where I say something different, because it's whatever I try to
It's
speak
the
the
truth.
truth. You see, 2 + 2
Yes.
equals 4. I can go on 100 talk shows and my message will not change, because 2 + 2 equals 4.
Wow.
It's simple, isn't it? At the end of the
It
day.
is simple,
And
but
look at
it's
me and
so,
what I actually have gone through. I mean, those trials, it wasn't an easy time, but you don't find me bitter.
you
You don't
can't
find
back
me,
down. Hmm.
it doesn't change much. It doesn't, my life has not changed. They tried to silence me, but look where it got me. It got me to talk to you.
Yeah.
You and I wouldn't be speaking if they hadn't tried to silence me back in
Yeah.
2009. So
Yeah.
I would say that backfired pretty much, pretty strong, right?
Yeah.
They
Yes.
really wanted to silence me. It didn't work at all.
No. No.
They gave me a voice. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
it's true. They gave fuel to, now you're this giant that's out here making such incredible change and voicing these opinions and your thoughts and trying to get younger people to open up their eyes to say, no, don't let them silence you. Don't let them push you. Don't let them do that. You are powerful and you have a voice, and speak your truth, speak the truth. And
Not
that's
my
all you
truth.
need.
Exactly, it's the
The
truth.
truth, right? The
Okay?
truth.
That's a
Hmm.
bit that's an important distinction here, because, it's right now we're seeing, well, that's my truth.
My
People are
truth.
saying, as if truth is up for grabs and we can
Yes.
just discuss it. Again, the truth is 2 + 2 equals 4. That is not my truth. It's the truth. And
Facts.
that's how it must remain. It's not up for we can't discuss it. 2 + 2 equals 4. It's not 4.5. It's not 5, and it's not 3.5. It
Yeah.
is what it is, and that's what we have to defend. It's painful, yes, it is, but you know what? Jesus Christ dying on the cross was painful too, and he did it.
We did it.
Okay, and it's the least that we can do is stand up for what is true.
Yes. I absolutely agree. And that's one of the reasons I started my YouTube channel, my podcast. For a
Kudos.
long for thank you. For a long time I was just sitting around watching, and I says, "My God, you've given me a voice. I got these opinions, I've got these thoughts. I don't know what to do with them, but I know I need to talk. I need to speak." And so I just started, the channel, and now it's turned into a podcast. And so it's like, and I'm talking to you, an author, this incredible woman hero who is doing such great things. And I'm just like, I can't even believe it that, all it took was for me to just stand up and say, I want to speak the truth. That's it.
See, and
So,
if we have people like you, I am not worried a bit about this battle for free speech. We have to win it, and we will win it, because there's you out there, and you will multiply. People will, are listening to you, and hopefully, you. Let me just add one thing, and then I'll let you go, and I need to go too. Let me add one thing.
okay.
People do not have to go out there and show their face. People don't have to expose themselves. This is not for everyone, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can, if you want to do something and you're able to, support those who do go out there and show their face and stand up for what is right. Support them financially, support them by buying a book, by subscribing to a podcast, many podcasts. There are so many ways. Again, you don't have to expose yourselves. I understand that you have a family, you need to feed your kids, you have to pay the mortgage. I totally get it. But please support those who do go out there and expose themselves. Really, it is absolutely crucial. We could not do it. I cannot travel to the United States if I didn't have people who donate a buck or two or five or 10. And it's the same for you. It's for the
Yeah.
podcasters who need the financial support. So I don't know if you've got my book on your screen, or if you're planning to, but here's the book. It's back here.
It's
You
right back
can buy it
there.
on Amazon. And how do you support me? Buy the book. Buy 5 books. Give one to your local library. Christmas is coming up. Those
Yes.
are books, give Christmas gift. If you don't know what to give this, this book. This is written for an American audience.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I love Americans. They are the ones who donated to the cause and were able, made it possible for me to take this case all the way to the European court. I couldn't have done it without Americans. This is my thank you. And if you want to know what else you can do, there's also a whole list of actions you can take without even leaving your home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So
Wow.
that's what I have to tell. I'm going to be silent now. I said so much already.
You said, I feel like there's still so much more you need to say.
Well,
And
we'll do that. We'll
I
do another
enjoyed it.
podcast.
Yes, we will. I really enjoyed speaking with you today. You enlightened. It was great conversation. I learned a lot more, and I'm going to be finishing your book, because thank you again for sending it to me so I could have it. But I wish you the best, and I pray that God will keep you and watch over you as you go through this fight, as we stand up and speak the truth that as we know it, and not let these people bully us into a corner, and not let us be shied away upon because we're afraid of. We've got God. He's holding us in his hand as we talk about these things on the internet, as we talk about all of these things that's going on. I mean, just this morning, I was out there canvassing. We have an election tomorrow, and I'm working a campaign. I was out there knocking doors and waving signs in the street because, and now here, but this is what we need to do to save our country. And so I say, God bless you and keep you in the things that you're doing, and the God bless me and keep me on what I'm doing, so we can stay true. But I'll give you the last word. You can just say whatever else, and then we'll say our goodbyes. And thank you again for coming on.
Well, thank you for taking the time. What I want, the final words are very simple. God bless America. God bless you. And without America, there's no place to go. So keep doing what you're doing. And I can't wait to return to the US in February, and I will keep fighting the good fight with my American friends. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, I can't wait because I'm gonna see you because I know you're gonna be close by. So
Yes.
I will see you in February when you come
Looking
to
forward to that.
America.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you
Elizabeth,
so
thank you
much.
so much. All
Thank you.
right.
Good
God
night from
bless you.
Austria.
Good day from Florida.
Bless
Bye
you. Bye
bye.
bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
So,
Oh, you can go. You can log
no,
off. I'm gonna
no,
stay on.
I'm going to go. Bye bye, guys. Have a
Bye
good
bye.
one.
Take care. Good.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you for that awesome interview, Elizabeth. Oh, wow. What a fighter. What a great story. And I'm just so blessed and humbled that she made the time to come here on the City Talk to have a conversation with us. So, friends, you'll be able to see this live on the City Talk YouTube channel. You will be able to listen to this on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Again, I'm just so overwhelmed and just ecstatic for this interview that I just had with Elisabeth. So again, thank you for your support. And please listen and check out this channel. And again, to the business owners, if you would like to amplify your voice on our program, you can email citytalkpolitics@gmail.com with your request. And and if you'd like to be on the program, you can email those requests as well, so we can screen you out and have a conversation. So this is City Talk. We normally talk about what's happening locally here in Florida, but Elisabeth, as you can tell, she's on the other side of the pond and she's in Austria. And so this was my first international conversation to see what's happening in her neck of the woods. So we're going to be bringing other people on, broadening this atmosphere, this platform, and we're going to do some really great things here on the City Talk podcast. So I want everybody to be involved. I want us on the ground. I want the local businesses to be involved. Please reach out so we can put your business out here, sponsorships and so on, so we can start to connect with you in the community, because this is not just going to happen here. We're going to move across this country, across the state, so we can get what's happening in America, so we can talk about these things, these local things that's happening in the country. And we want to talk about them. Whatever's happening in your neck of the woods, if you're in New Jersey, what's happening in New York. Let's not talk about New York right now with everything that's going on. It's a mess. But again, this is the City Talk. We're talking about local things happening in your local areas. So thank you again, friends. It's really been a pleasure. Please again, check us out, like us on Twitter, and we are on Facebook, like our Facebook page. And again, you can contact us through citytalkpolitics@gmail.com. Again, that's citytalkpolitics@gmail.com. My name is Amanya Salas, your host of the City Talk podcast, and I will see you in our next video, in our next conversation. Thank you. God bless you, and you take care.